Hello everyone, this is Zebo and welcome to today's Day 1 Best Plague Creeper Guide in terms of the Primal Lord version, because we will be getting a Dreamland boss in the future. But with regards to Plague Creeper, in today's video we're going to talk about the best Day 1 teams shared by a few sources. And as I usually mention, on the very first day of the Primal Lord itself, we have some very spectacular teams, but I'll wait for at least 1 or 2 days until we have the max out stats for our artifacts, as well as the different unit power-ups for this season, to talk about the best meta team moving forward. So stay tuned for the meta teams. But for today's video, we will share a few teams by other players, and I'll also be doing some runs on my own account, and then theory crafting with some Mauler double factional talent itself. Okay, so before we start, let's talk about the boss kit. So I talked about it briefly from one of my earlier videos, but with regards to Plague Creeper itself, the most important part of this ability is actually the intermittent split, because this split allows the boss to split into smaller bodies once he reached the certain HP threshold. So I can't exactly remember based on the replay what's the number, so later on we'll go through, but basically you need some sort of AoE to quickly remove the smaller plague rods to actually access the main boss once again. So other than like quickly killing the plague rod itself, this ability also weakens the boss, because once all the plague rods are defeated, they will merge back into the Plague Creeper, which is the big boss, which will remain weakened for 8 seconds, during which its damage taken is increased by 20%, and after each merge, the HP required to trigger the next split and the total HP of the plague rod produced increases by 150%. So this means that you need to be able to quickly remove the smaller plague rods to access the boss to trigger the weakness, and then subsequently I think there will be a few cycles where the boss will split further, which means that AoE for this boss is quite crucial. So you need some sort of AoE skills coming out from either your artifact, Tidal Wave for example, or you need some AoE coming out from the skills of your units. So that's for the AoE portion, okay? And then for the first 2 skill, it's just a very simple damage which requires probably just 1 support, 1 healer to solve the issue. And then for the very last skill, right, Replication, it's basically the abilities of the Plague Rod. So if you're able to kill the Plague Rods quickly, you're able to answer to the smaller bosses quickly, it shouldn't be a major problem, because it's not gonna be that impactful, right, if you're able to kill the smaller one, because they won't be able to do much if they don't last that long on the battlefield. Okay, so that's for the Plague Creeper. Very important to have AoE or some sort of ways to deal AoE damage to quickly remove the smaller minions. So without further ado, I'll start with the very first team, which is the Talin team with the Celestial Hypogean talent, or Talin Lilymay team. So this is the team over here. This is the team formation. Best there is. Later on I'll show the run. So this relies on Mikola as well as Lilymay on the Celestial Hypogean tiles, and Talin behind the Rainer buff. So this Rainer buff will allow Talin to have some heal, Mikola providing some heal, and then Phaesto is there to trigger the Celestial Hypogean, because you need 3 different Celestial Hypogean units to get this Tau talent, right, factional talent over here. So that's why it uses our dear Phaesto over here. So that is team number 1. So I don't have Talin on my account, so I can't showcase it. I have to showcase it off this account, and let's start the replay. So we'll go at one time to just take a look at the boss abilities once again. So right here, Lilymay is one of the strongest damage dealer around for this boss based on the different replays, and later on we'll build a few teams featuring Lilymay as a carry. I'll also be trying a Mauler team, because I do want to see whether or not a full Mauler team works or a melee Mauler team works. Okay, so right here, this is the splitting ability. So at the point where we are at on the global server, the boss's damage ain't exactly that scary, and because we will be running at least 1 support for most teams, the heals from the supports based on the different team shed are mostly sufficient. So if you have issues surviving, right, and you don't have Mikola, Smokey is one thing you can do, and obviously you can also run both Smokey and Coco if you are not able to survive, if you're not as high level as what is showcased here, because later on I'll also be showcasing some of my teams, but because my levels are pretty high comparable to this account's level, so I'll also be running 1 support on my account. But for your own account, let's say if you have issues surviving, either Mikola Coco, Mikola Smokey, or Smokey Coco, they're all decently fine for the defensive side if you need to survive better. And then you feed like 3 other units to activate your factional talent. For example, let's say if you want to activate the Wilders talent, then you need at least 3 other Wilders to activate the tiles, right? If you want to feature your light bearers, then you need like 3 other light bearers to get the tiles. So for this boss itself, I think the tiles plays a really important part because there's a few builds that plays around the tile talent, right, in terms of dealing maximum damage. So for this one, it's using the resonating spell, right, to boost up the damage of Lily Mei, because Lily Mei is the main beneficiary of the buff itself. So this team was I'll say like the stronger team earlier, shared by a lot of players. So we shall call these the Celestial Hypogean Talent Tile team, because it features the Tile and it features Talene as well as 3 Celestial Hypogean at a bare minimum to get this amount of damage. Okay, so this is the very first team, a more expensive variant. Next, we're gonna move into my own account, and then we're gonna talk about the other team variants shared as well. Okay, so we are back on my own account, and before I start, there's actually a double light bearer factional talent tile abuse with the Tidal Essence. This team is shared by Basilisk, so it features Corinne, Marilee, Rowan together with 2 other units to activate the light bearer factional talent, which is insanely powerful in terms of spamming the skills and then using the Tidal Essence artifact, the one that summons the waves based on the ultimate you use. So that combined with the ability of this factional talent to spam ultimate allows you to do AoE damage through the artifact itself. Okay, so I'm not sure whether or not that's the strongest build, but based on the numbers itself, the team by Basilisk is probably the highest damage one I've seen around, so 8 build. So you guys can definitely give it a try if you have the light bearer factional talent upgraded. So for me, I actually upgraded my Wilders all the way to 20, and I also upgraded my Mauler to 20. So I'm getting my reset in about 18 hours time. So I will be doing the light bearers build tomorrow to see whether or not I could do more damage with it. I also try a few variants as well, but that is the Basilisk light bearer double factional tile build. Okay, so for my own team itself, I'll be building my teams around my 2 main factional talents, so the Mauler one as well as the Wilders one. Okay, so without further ado, let me just tune the levels of my units for a little bit. So right now we are 531. I think should be a little bit stronger right now. So the very first team that I want to showcase, okay, I'm going to put Mikola, because I think Mikola is actually quite a powerful unit in terms of dealing damage. So we are 791. Okay, so let's just get the EXP and level the units a little bit further, because against the Plague Creeper itself, the levels do matter. So yeah, let's jump into Plague Creeper. So the very first build is the more standard, like I'll say like a double Wilders tile build, which I think you guys probably saw it before somewhere. So number 1, Lily Mei. Okay, number 2, Iron, and then number 3, Carolina, and they have Mikola in the team, right, for some of the teams out there, and then they have Lenya. So for me, I think Mikola is a good, I'll say, like unit for this boss specifically, because she provides a buff, she provides damage, she also provides the heal for the team, and on top of that, I think Mikola as a support provides more offensive buff compared to Smokey across a long drawn out fight. So if you have Mikola over Smokey, then use Mikola, right? But if you don't have Mikola, Smokey is fine in that slot. And then for the carrying position, right, like I mentioned earlier, it depends on what factional tiles you want to activate. So because I'm going to do the Wilders one, so I'm putting Iron in for the AoE as well as a little bit of debuff. I'm using Carolina as a damage dealer as well as a debuffer, and Carolina is a unit with pretty decent single target damage over time, together with the massive 40% debuff from the Supreme Plus skill right here. So this is the Ice Vortex skill right here, as you guys can see. So the reduction in the enemy's magical defense allows the other magical damage dealers to hit harder. So some of the teams that I saw people try out is actually using our dear Lenya. So Lenya works for this team because Lenya synergizes decently well with Mikola, because Lenya is always on the front line, and Lenya will be able to benefit from Mikola's buff, I'll say like indefinitely, which is one of the strengths that Lenya has to offer. But personally for me, I want to attempt to experiment a team that runs more towards the magical side, Okay, so instead of running Lenya, I'm gonna give this team, like, there's a few options from the Wilder side. So we have obviously Bryon. So Bryon over here is a Wilders, which will activate the Tau. So the very first objective is to get 3 Wilders characters to get the Taus up. So the reason why I chose Bryon is, other than the single target damage, Bryon also has this ability to increase damage taken by the enemies based on his attack. So this way, you have a debuff from Bryon, you have a debuff from Carolina, a debuff from Iron's second skill right here. So Ice Spike applies a magical defense debuff and also allows Iron to do damage. And then you have Lily May to be the main damage dealer with the resonating spell. So this is one way to go about, right? So this is the resonating spell, like hyper carry buff build based on my idea. So I'm thinking whether or not I want to use Iron, or do I want to just use Parisa, because Parisa is also a pretty decent damage dealer with the ability to buff the carry. But considering the fact that out of these units right here, the units that will be buffed by Mikola is only Iron, right? And maybe if I put one of the units in front, for example Bryon here, Bryon might get the buff as well. I think it would be better to just stick with Iron just for that Mikola buff, because Mikola's ability to buff the allies as well as burn from her skill is actually quite big. So I guess this is probably the build that I want to try. So this is the very first build that I want to try. So let's go for the run and then we see the damage. So I'm gonna give Carolina the damage. So without further ado, let's start the very first run on my account. Let's go. Okay, so we'll go at one time for this one to just run through the abilities once again. So at the start of battle, Iron throws the ultimate. Okay, and then the 2 units which are like my backline carry, they are Carolina together with Lily May. So I put Bryon in front because I want Bryon to sort of benefit from Mikola's aura if possible. So right here, Mikola activates the ultimate. Okay, Carolina using the ultimate to quickly remove the summon. Iron groups everyone together, and then hopefully we are able to remove the units as fast as possible. Okay, so one thing that Mikola has to offer is also the burn, which is consistent damage, which allows you to kill the plague rods faster. Because for Smokey's case, Smokey does deal damage from the EX weapon burn, but it's only for a short period. So after that burn itself, right, Smokey doesn't do that much damage. So in terms of killing the plague rods as fast as possible, I think Mikola is the option to go for. That's why people are using Mikola. Okay, so right here, second split around the 2.5 billion mark. So the first one is around the 1 bill mark and the second one is around the 2.5 bill. Okay, so I think the next one is around the 5 bill mark, I guess. Okay, so group everyone together. So one added advantage of Iron is the grouping of all the units to allow your AoE skills to hit as many targets as possible to quickly kill them. So I think Bryon here is a little bit lackluster in a sense. Bryon's debuff on the boss seems good, but later on we'll try out other units to see whether or not we can achieve better damage with this Wilders Lily May team right here. So unfortunately, I think we might not be able to beat the 6 bill range, but I think the max chest, like I mentioned earlier, is around 30 chests. So about 5 bill damage would be sufficient. So this is the first team. Okay, so first split at around 1 bill, second split 2.5. Let's see where we get the third split. So we hit the 30 chest mark. Okay, so rewards maximized, 5 bill damage right here. Okay, 5.1, 5.2. Okay, so this is the first Wilders team. So this is with Bryon, rank 11, not the best, and not as good as Berserker's 8 bill obviously. And then we have the damage distribution right here. So I think Bryon is a little bit underwhelming based on this performance. So Carolina doing this amount of damage is okay. So there's another build that includes Lenya in the team, and Lenya was hitting a lot harder. So I'll also be posting that result on screen. So that is the other builds that people are trying. So I think Bryon's a little bit underwhelming. If Bryon is so underwhelming, I think Parisa might not be a good choice as well, because Parisa does have a buff, but it's kind of inconsistent, and I think Parisa's buff is not as impactful as a debuff because it falls all over the place. And I think if you take a look at the damage dealers compartment, I don't think Parisa's gonna beat Carolina. So if you were to put in Parisa, and then if Parisa's damage doesn't outweigh Bryon right here, then Parisa's not going to do that good. But nonetheless, we're going to give Parisa a try because we have the data from Lenya. We also have the data from Bryon right now. So I'm going to use Parisa as the other wildest unit. Okay, so on screen right now, this is the Lenya variant. So this one I think is also consistently 6 build damage. So this is relying on the sheer damage of Lenya to bring up the cap of your team's damage. So right here, we're going to do a Parisa buff. So we're going to put Carolina in front, and we're going to give Parisa the back buff, so we are able to consistently buff the attack speed of Lily Mei. Another thing I want to try is with my Tight Core spell right here. But Tight Core spell is a spell that relies on your team doing multiple ultimates. So I'll be unlocking the level 20 variant really soon because I'm going to reach 540. So I'll be testing more of the Tight Core spell in the next few days in terms of the teams itself. But for today's video, we'll try the Resonating buff carry build first, and then one more on the melee teams itself later on. Okay, so I guess that's the thing I want to achieve. So without further ado, let's try it out. Okay, let's see how Parisa performs with the Wildest Tau. Okay, just go at 2 times since we roughly know how the boss function. Okay, so first stack. Okay, let's see whether or not Parisa can kill the summons faster, because that's one advantage that Parisa has over Bryon. Even though Bryon has a debuff, but Bryon's not exactly the best in terms of killing the Plague Rods as fast. So it seems like Parisa is a little bit faster, at least as we are killing the Plague Rods. So we are also buffing out our Lily Mei with the normal attack damage buff as well as attack speed buff coming out from Parisa. Okay, so pull everyone together, really nice. Okay, boom. Okay, her ultimate actually kills the summons a lot faster, and then she has this flower power that is an AoE skill. As you guys can see, really fast removal there. Okay, so now Mikola moves forward. Okay, Lily Mei continues to damage. The pacing is a little bit slow. I don't think we will exceed the 5-6 build range, but I could be wrong. So we still have 10 seconds left. It's definitely faster than Bryon. So let's see whether or not we can exceed that 6 build range. Okay, 5.4. So we also hit the 5.6. So we hit the 30 chest range. Nice. So this team is definitely a little bit better in terms of removing the summons faster. Yeah, and I think Parisa's position should be at the back because I want to buff Lily Mei more than anything else. But then if we take a look at this, the damage increase from Lily Mei isn't exactly the biggest, so I think there is definitely room for improvement for this team in terms of positioning, which I'll also try in the next few days. So that's for the second team variant with Parisa for the Wildest tag. So the very third team I want to try, right, it's a full melee team with the double Wildest Tau. So just now you guys saw that I have a level 20 Wildest talent, and Mikola is an insanely powerful unit in this boss run itself. So Lenya is also an insanely powerful unit, so I'm gonna use Lenya right here. Okay, and we are gonna level scale our carry. So Lenya is our carry. The EX weapon is a little bit low, so if this team works out, then I'll probably level up the EX weapon. Then we have Kruger, and then we have okay, we need another Mauler, so I'll use this one. We'll use Shakir over here. So we need another melee unit. Let's see. Plague Creeper is not 50%, so I think Vala's not exactly the best. I kind of want to use, but Khafra's too weak. I don't think Khafra's gonna be a good guy here. Okay, I tell you what, we'll use Reyna because we already activated the buff. So we will be swapping in Mikola, and then we will be putting Shakir on the Tau together with Lenya with the Resonating spell buff. Okay, so tomorrow we will be testing more on the Tidal Essence, so this one, because I'll be able to get it to level 19 tomorrow at the very least, and then if I get 540, I'll try to push this to level 20, so that I'll be able to showcase the Light Bearer team with the Tight Core spell spam right tomorrow. So without further ado, let's try our very last attempt with Resonating spell with the full melee team right here. Okay, so without further ado, let's start the battle. Okay, so we put Reyna in front of Lenya to hyper buff our Lenya to be the carry. Okay, so this is the standard melee team with aura stacking, and let's see the performance right here. So one thing that I'm actually thinking about is, because now for the Mauler factional talent, the factional talent actually provides some sort of AoE. So despite this team not having AoE within the units itself, we still kill the mini plague rods decently fast, as you guys saw just now. Okay, not as fast as the Wilders team, but I think it's decently fast. Okay. Yeah, so there is a little bit of delay in terms of killing this summon here. So I guess the melee team is probably not the most optimal, because it doesn't kill the summons as fast as compared to like the Tadin team or even the Lily May team just now, unfortunately. Yeah, so right here we did not max out the chest, unfortunately. So the melee team is obviously not the best choice. So that is something that we tested, and the damage numbers not as high as Lily May. So I think the mage teams or the mage centric variants is probably the way to go. So in the next few days we'll do more testing, and then we'll post our findings with the different alteration to our factional talent path, as well as combinations of units moving forward. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The 3 teams that I experimented with on the very first day of Plague Creeper, as well as some of the top tier teams that are shared by other players out there. And thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more. See you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.